Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're taking a look at Wolverine and judging based on his uniform whether or not it's a good pickup. Now, for those of you that are diehard Wolverine fans, for those of you that intend to take the character to tier 3, I have to say right away, yeah, you probably should just pick it up. It's the best of both worlds. It combines the all damage reduction from this uniform with the ignored defense from this uniform, which makes it easier for him to cap his most important stats and, of course, take less damage. But with that being said, there's a bit of controversy behind his uniform. I was waiting to make this video until after his uniform was actually patched. Now, I didn't say fixed because at the end of this video, I am going to kind of implore Netmarble. Ooh, good pun there. I want to implore Netmarble to actually take a second look at this uniform and possibly buff it, give it a fix. But they did give it a patch because the effect that is listed as a 100% damage increase was only buffing 50%. So technically, the damage has been doubled on that particular buff. But that particular buff and that particular skill in general, Counter Slash, is going to be at the center of the issue and the debate and the implore of me to Netmarble to give Wolverine a buff. But just so you guys are aware here, if you go to the server patch, and I know the game sound just disappeared, you can see here, fixed an issue with Wolverine's X-Force third skill where the increased damage effect did not apply correctly. So his uniform has already been, in a way, patched because it hasn't been it wasn't functioning as normal. But what are you getting if you get this X-Force uniform? Well, on top of the actual uniform effects, which I think are fantastic, I think these are really good effects, you additionally get changes to 3 different skills. Now, the change to the 5th skill is not actually a change. It's just the same change that he got with his newer uniform where he does all of the slashes, then he lands and he stuns the enemy at the very end with kind of a drop from the sky. So it's just a copy-paste of the same skill. His 4th skill, Berserker Slice, now is not an iframe. It's got movement from side to side, but it does not have an iframe. But the lack of iframe is actually not that bad because it can help you after Counter Slash in order to deal more damage so that he's not in an iframe. So it's actually not the worst thing in the world. You actually want to get hit in certain situations, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit. He still has the iframe on his 2nd skill. He doesn't have an iframe on his 1st skill, and it's basically all the same. The only difference, of course, the big change being his 3rd skill. He's got Paralyzed now, which he didn't have before. He's got a 6-guard hit for 1 second, and 1 second is basically all you're going to want to cast the skill for anyways, and then he's got the damage increase. Before we go further, I just want to say if you guys are hearing weird noises, I mean, the pitter-patter is Bacon walking around, but there may be other noises because it's extremely windy outside, and I just can't control the wind. I don't have Storm with me, so you just have to deal with that, and I apologize if the audio has kind of weird buffets of sound. But overall, you're not going to notice a huge change to Wolverine. He didn't get kind of a facelift makeover. It's kind of like Deadpool, where his skills just got minor tweaks here and there. But with Deadpool, it's a little bit more obvious because he got the all defense down on his 1st skill. So it's very easy to see the actual stat bonuses that you're getting, or in this case, debuff bonuses right there. He also has extra hits on his 4th skill, and he's got some other changes going on. But for the most part, it's easier to see how Deadpool has been improved versus how Wolverine has improved. I think Wolverine now becomes a much more difficult character to play because you have to incorporate that 3rd skill, Counter Slash. Before, the playstyle for Wolverine with either of his uniforms or his base look is just spam all your skills after hitting the proc on 5, which is just, you know, just proc on 5 and then do whatever, run around, and then 5 again. And it was pretty one-dimensional. I still loved Wolverine, but I'll be honest, he wasn't the most creative character to play as. He definitely has less creativity than more recent characters like Juggernaut and Sabretooth. He doesn't have immunity on a skill, he doesn't have accumulation, stuff like that. But it's okay, he's Wolverine. He's just supposed to go at your face and Berserker Rage, that's fine. But they've tried to include some uniqueness with this uniform and with the Counter Slash mechanic. Now, the Counter Slash mechanic is tricky. It's also kind of broken at the moment, broken in the sense that it doesn't really work in the game. If that makes sense. If the game had come out, or if this uniform had come out in 2017 when he was first released, then it would have made a lot more sense. Or if this effect had come out then, when there were fewer characters with tons of iframes. Iframes are really the downfall of this skill. But essentially the way that it works, and I'll show you against Thanos in a moment, you have to get hit. If you don't get hit, then none of those buffs will actually apply. But once you get hit and he attacks, then the buffs will be applied, and then you can start to do other skills, and you can get that guard hit, and you can get that increased damage. But without the hit, the buffs don't actually get applied. So we're going to jump into some action now. Before, the snapshot that I gave you guys to keep in mind was a stage 10 Thanos, and it was Nick Fury with the leadership, Shuri with the support, and Wolverine with the third slot. He's still level 60. I haven't changed anything about his build. I haven't changed his Obelisk or ISO or Uru, so he's exactly the same. We're also going to be using the exact 5 same strikers, so we're emulating the perfect situation. I think my raid level went up by 1, so he'll be slightly stronger, but okay, come on. But it's really not going to be that challenging or that much more easy. It's going to be just as challenging as it was. And we should get a good indication of how good he is. So starting off the battle, we're going to want to do 3 right away because we know that Thanos is going to open up with a beam attack. And I'm going to show you that when he gets hit, he counters, and then you get that buff and you get those bonuses. But without the third skill, if you just do it, you see he's not going to get any buffs. His damage is not going to change. But another thing you may notice is that in general, his damage has not changed much. Now, since we got that bonus since we got the third skill patched, there may be a couple spikes in his damage, but just to give you a bit of a spoiler, when I ran this just briefly, oh my god, I keep getting snared. When I ran this briefly on stream, I didn't see a tremendous benefit from this uniform. So I think we may need more testing. He may need a level 70, but it may only be for kind of the more hardcore fans. Now you may see, where did that all defense down come from? That's actually weird. I don't know who applied that all defense down. It might have been Nick Fury. But I think the problem itself lies in the way that the third skill mechanic basically works. It works in the sense that you can't cancel it into another skill. It would be better if you could, because for example you could do 3 and then you could do 4, and then if he got hit during that effect and it triggers the bonus of 3, then you could cancel into other skills like 2 or 5. But the way that it works right now, you basically have to wait until just before the enemy attacks, and then you have to do the third skill in order to get that counter slash. And you can see the counter slash did quite a bit of damage there. You saw that extra effect happening, and then you also saw the guard hit at the top. That's when you know it triggers, because you see that guard hit bubble pop up. But the fact that you actually have to use the third skill damage, it's unclear whether the damage bonus that's being applied is applying to different skills, or if the first hit of the 2 applies to the third skill, in which case it would be worse. So it's unclear about that as well. But the 6 guard hit does make sense, because it allows you to basically absorb one non-penetrating hit from most enemies, which can even be a really tremendous damage attack as long as it's not one that penetrates. So here we're going to absorb the first one there. We did the slash, then we comboed that into our 5 skill, but it creates a situation where you basically have to wait. Now the third skill may end up being better for Wolverine in certain auto PvP scenarios like Alliance Conquest, possibly Alliance Tournament. There hasn't been enough testing yet to really say yes or no. But the problem really lies in the fact that iframes completely negate his third skill. So Thanos is a nice person to test this on, because Thanos doesn't have very many iframes. And most of his iframes are skills like the one where he teleports away and he drops the meteors, or he teleports away and he shoots those purple beams. You don't want to get hit by those anyways, and because he's iframing, you can't target him. But for other situations, for other scenarios where you're fighting, let's say in PvP, and the character iframes just briefly, you're gonna get hit. You're not going to do any damage, and then you're also going to lose your third skill buff. So I think what they need to do, or what they should do, is they should either make the third skill buffs apply automatically, so whether or not you get hit, they apply automatically, and then you can apply a stronger buff. See, I don't get any buff there. Or you can apply a stronger buff if he gets hit. So let's say the base function of the skill effect is the damage boost, and then if you also, I might die here. And then if you also manage to get hit during the third skill, you will get an additional all defense down. So they could stack 2 different bonuses. One, the one that's currently there, that's always activated. You know, as soon as you press the skill, you get the 6 guard hit, and you get the damage boost. And then if you get hit when you're doing the skill as well, and it's not in an iframe, you'll apply an all defense down to the enemy, or you'll apply some sort of bleed effect or something like that. But see, that time it didn't even trigger. Too much time had passed on the third skill, and so the actual damage of the third skill is pretty low. And so yeah, it's just, you can see I'm kind of struggling. I'm actually wasting more time with this uniform versus his other uniforms, because I'm sitting here waiting to show you the gimmick of the third skill. And then if we have things like this happen where Thanos does skills that could one-shot me, I can't stand there with the third skill. He will penetrate the guard hit and I'll die. So it's a bit awkward. If he also had debuff immunity when he was doing his third skill, it would make more sense. Like, that was a really nice, that was like a bar. That was really nice, but it's so hard and it's so impractical to do that third skill that it's clumsy and it's awkward. If he had a debuff immunity, it would, you know, protect him from getting debuffed while he's waiting to counter-strike and to counter-attack. But I think the most important thing that's missing right now is the penalty of iframes. And having either having iframe ignore is another option. So basically the skill would ignore iframes so that you could always get that counter-attack off even if the enemy's iframing, or having it so that the first part of the skill effect triggers no matter what you do. See, if the buff triggered no matter what, I could have done 3 cancel 5 there, and I could have done damage. But in this case, I can't. I ran out of time. I wasn't really playing that aggressively. I probably could have done slightly more damage than I had with his other uniform, or around the same. Keep in mind that the uniform is not as well built. Now, a lot of you, I know, are going to be hitting the panic button. You're going to be screeching that the uniform is a ripoff. We don't know the full extent of the uniform's benefits. We haven't had enough time to test Counter Slash. It may be a bad skill, but it is a very unique effect, and it's an effect that has a very powerful the effect has a powerful bonus if it's used correctly. You know, 100% for 2 attacks is actually really good, and Wolverine has multiple attacks that deal pretty high damage, so he can definitely take advantage of that. The only problem is that right now, the way the game is designed, too many characters iframe, which completely ignores Counter Slash. And there's just not enough time. The window is so small for when you can use that bonus that you literally have to just stand there waiting for the enemy to attack, which makes the gameplay for Wolverine very boring. You know, Wolverine is not a passive fighter. He goes and he brings the fight to you. So this would have been better as a passive effect that would just trigger every, you know, they could have made it the cooldown every 20 seconds, and it would just randomly trigger, maybe not randomly, but, you know, 50% chance when he gets hit to deal this Counter Slash attack, so he kind of just does an extra attack, and then it gives him a buff. He could have done some sort of berserk passive effect that triggers when he loses a certain amount of HP. So whereas Deadpool has a heal when he gets down to 30% with healing factor, Wolverine, when he gets below 35%, he could have gotten like a, you know, 90% attack defense bonus for 10 seconds, just to, like, because he's going into his kind of final fit of rage. There's a bunch of things they could have done. I do really like the fact that they're trying to introduce new effects, and they're trying to tweak the game in small, subtle ways and tweak the gameplay. I think it's very creative. I think it's to be encouraged, not discouraged. However, given the way that we play the game and given the way that we interact with other characters in the game, especially in PvP, this attack is really not worth it right now to actually use. And so essentially you purchase the uniform and you're ignoring the uniqueness of the uniform, the Counter Slash mechanic, because if you play waiting to get hit, as you just saw me do with Thanos, you're going to run out of time. You're going to sit there and get snared or get interrupted or get iframed, and then you just feel bad because you wasted your time. So you're better off just playing Wolverine, imagining that he doesn't even have Counter Slash, and then if you just so happen to press 3 when the enemy's hitting you, you'll just suddenly, you know, stumble upon some extra damage. So I really think they should take a second, or I guess third look in this case, at Counter Slash, and they should improve it so that it's much easier to trigger. Right now it's way too hard to trigger. It's got way too short of a window for the triggerable effect. The effect can be ignored way too easily, and it just leaves Wolverine standing there like an idiot when he should be kind of, you know, shoving his claws into your chest cavity. So let me know what you guys think of the new Wolverine uniform. Are you disappointed? Are you kind of on the fence? I still think it's a good purchase, and keep it, like, it's an okay purchase. And keep in mind, I was saying before, his uniform is rare, whereas the other one is mythic. So that does add quite a bit more physical attack and defense as well. But having said that, I would say if you're not a hardcore Wolverine fan and you're not going to be using him for any particular game mode, you know, specifically like PvP, then you may want to stick with his Age of Apocalypse one if you have it, until this uniform gets a buff as it deserves, until Counter Slash is more worthwhile. But if Counter Slash worked all the time, I think this uniform would be much closer to a strong recommendation, or possibly a must purchase. So let me know what you guys think of Wolverine's X-Force action. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Hit me up on Twitch and Discord. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.